Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope I'm audible. Let me increase the volume of my phone. Nice to see some people joining. I will wait for a few minutes before I start my session on geographical indications. Meanwhile, if you want to say something, please use the chat box or the comments. I'll be happy to know what is in your mind and what you want to learn from me today. So has anyone heard of geographical indications before, and do they know anything about this topic? Since they are there, I'm presuming that they have some interest. Okay, since no response is coming, I will start with my session on geographical indications. GI is actually a type of, so before I start, talking about GI, just a very brief introduction about myself. My name is Rachna Bakru, as you would have seen from the post. I am a partner with a law firm called RNA Technology and IP. This is a specialized law firm which practices intellectual property rights. And I have over 25 years of experience in protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights, basically all types. So today the topic given to me is geographical indications, which is a type of an IPR. Not very popular, not many people know about it, but it is very, very important, and it's a topic which is very close to my heart, because I feel that everyone should know about it, and it should get the attention that it deserves, because this is going to help our the economy of our country, help the farmers and the artisans of our country, as I will take you through in my talk today. So before I start talking about the geographical indications, just a very, very brief introduction on what are the other types of intellectual property rights. I assume that you would already know about it, so you could participate by sharing your knowledge and experience on what other IPRs exist, as per the law. So broadly, there are like 5 types of intellectual property rights. The most popular ones I'm talking about, which are protected. So there's this trademark rights, which cover brand names, as you may be aware. So what is a trademark? Legally, anything that is capable of being graphically represented. So, which is a very broad term, graphical representation. It includes brand names, trade words, logos. So conventionally, the trademarks were understood as brand names and logos only, or sometimes slogans. But recently there are a number of trademarks which are non-conventional in nature. For example, sound marks, smell marks, shape marks. 3-dimensional trademarks have also been recognized by some countries as a trademark. Color marks as well. So that is something I can't go deep into in this session, because we are going to talk about GI. But I'll be happy to share more about non-conventional trademarks or conventional trademarks as well, how you can protect them and enforce them in a separate session if there is enough interest amongst the participants. So the second type of intellectual property right is copyright. As you may be aware, is a very popular type of right. It includes artistic work, literary work, and cinematographic work. So what is a literary work? Examples. Would anyone like to share examples of trademarks or copyrights? I will wait for a minute if anyone wants to share any examples of popular brand names and what can be registered as a trademark. So for trademarks, there is this very important criteria is there, that a trademark should be distinctive in nature. It should be capable of identifying goods of one person from another. While I'm talking, if you want to share something, please do feel free to share any examples. So something that describes the goods or is laudatory in nature, it cannot be registered, or is generic in nature, or personal names or geographical names, they cannot be registered as a trademark, because it's not fair to give monopoly rights. These are exclusive rights. So it's not actually fair to give these rights to just single person. So for example, apple is a very famous trademark, but if a fruit grower, if a fruit producer wants to register apple as a trademark, it is not possible, because it is going to describe the goods that it is representing. However, apple, for computers, for laptops, it is a distinctive mark, because the trade and public will not associate apple. If they come across an apple trademark, they will not associate it with the computers. Now, of course, they will, because of the goodwill and reputation that it has acquired over a period of time. So Chirag has given example of Sony as a trademark, which is a well-known brand. Thank you, Chirag. That's a good example. Neha has given example of copyrights of books, movies, songs, music. Thank you, Neha. That is absolutely correct. And availability of name plays important factor. Yeah, that is also correct, because a search is done on existing trademarks on the register before a trademark is granted protection. So coming back to copyrights, I was talking about 3 types of copyrights: literary work, artistic work, and cinematographic works. So literary work covers books, and then artistic work would cover paintings or photographs. I'm giving very broad examples. They will, although they cover a whole lot of other works as well. And then cinematographic works would cover movies and sound recordings and songs and music. So that's about copyright very briefly, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm just taking you through the types of IPRs, so that then we can relate it to geographical indications and what are the similarities, how GI is different from other IPRs. So the third type of IPR is designs. The design is dependent on, it covers basically shape of or the aesthetic part, the visual representation of design part of any article. For example, shape of a Kinley bottle, shape of certain jewelries, they are or boxes, drums for saving lubricants, protection, containers. Those all are a subject matter of design, provided that there is novelty in the design. So they are new in nature. They are not disclosed already to the trade and public. It qualifies as a design mark. Then the fourth and a very important IPR is the patents. So patent is granted in an invention. So it has to be an undisclosed invention. As you may be aware, scientific inventions, it covers pharmaceutical preparations, covers electronics, software, a number of other things. Our mobile phone has so many inventions that are protected under the patent rights. So patent, again, there has to be novelty, there has to be an inventive step, and industrial application. Those are the 3 main criteria on the basis of which a patent is granted. So 4 important IPRs I discussed about. Now the 5th one, and these are all protected under special acts by India. So I'm talking right now about India. And so the 5th type of GI is 5th type of IPR is geographical indications, which I will be covering in details today about how what exactly are geographical indications, how they can be protected in India, and how those registered rights can be enforced in India. So first of all, what exactly is a geographical indication? It is different from a trademark, that is obvious, because a geographical indication is a name or a sign which is indicating the geography or the location or the origin where it is coming from, where that particular product is coming from. And it only covers products, it does not cover services. So I will take any question and answers, I will take in the end. Now I'm talking about GI, and then I can take questions on any type of IPRs at the end of the session. I will leave about 10 minutes, especially for question and answers, because that's my favorite part. Coming back to the geographical indications, it indicates basically, that word indicates the origin, the indication, or the geography of that particular product. And it cannot be registered as a trademark. For example, Darjeeling tea. Now, Darjeeling word cannot be registered as a trademark because it is generic in nature. It is name of a place. So, name of a place, name of a person cannot be registered as a trademark. However, Darjeeling tea is representing a particular type of tea which is coming from Darjeeling. So, people when they are buying Darjeeling tea, they have certain expectations, or they have a bit of knowledge about that particular product, about the characteristics of Darjeeling tea, that what to expect basically when they are buying a Darjeeling tea. So they are aware of the location, and now the location has a very, very important part to play in the taste, the aroma, the quality and the characteristics of a product. For example, Alfonso mango, when we imagine mangoes coming from a certain region, having certain characteristics, certain taste, color, then we know that this particular product is coming from this particular origin, and that is what qualifies as a geographical indication. So how, a little bit taking you back into the years, a little bit of history on why GIs are of importance, and how India came into a sui generis law for protection of geographical indications. So India is a member of the World Trade Organization, WTO, and WTO has this agreement, TRIPS. It is very popular, basically an agreement on protection of trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. So being a member country of the WTO, India is a signatory to the TRIPS agreement, and as a part of TRIPS, the member countries are expected to provide protection for geographical indications, so that the consumers are not misled into thinking into products which are coming from a certain geographical location, and they are clear on what is coming from where. So that is how India, in order to comply with its obligations under the TRIPS agreement, India came up with this sui generis law in 1999. It's called the Protection of Geographical Indications. Not many countries have a specific sui generis law for protection of geographical indications. However, they do have protection under other laws. For example, Europe has protection under the Wines and Spirits Act. They have a specific act because wines and spirits are of there's a lot of significance to those countries, because they earn a lot of revenue from those products. So similarly, GI is very important for a country like India, which has number one, agriculture based economy. So we have so many products that are coming from different parts of the country, having unique characteristics. And it is, once they have a GI tag, it protects the farmers, it helps them get a fair price for their products because those products are so unique. It helps them export, it boosts exports to other countries, because when a product is exported to other countries bearing a GI tag, it increases the value automatically, and the acceptance of that particular product, that yes, it is coming from India, yes, it is coming from a certain region, and it will be having those characteristics and qualities which the customer is actually looking for. Then the third thing is the GI, if there is no GI protection given to a particular product in the home country, for example in India, if basmati rice is not giving protection, then if they want to acquire registration for a GI in another countries, in foreign countries, then it will not be possible. So recognition in the home country is the first step for any geographical indication to get protected, so that they get recognized in the other countries as well. So there will be reciprocal rights given to them. Then geographical indications, we have a huge industry of handicrafts. As you may be aware, there are so many artisans which are working very hard. They have traditional knowledge. They have, but they are unable to get the fair price for their products, because, in the absence of any rights given by the statute. So it helps to, India exports about 2 billion worth of handicrafts every year to overseas countries. So it is important to preserve, to protect those handicrafts as well under some IPR. And geographical indication is one space where they can register their IP rights. GIs help create employment and more structured environment for farmers, for artisans to work and get a better price for their products, and also work in a team and improve on their knowledge. So that is a brief introduction about what exactly was the background, why we have a sui generis law, why this IPR came into force, and what is the importance of geographical indications to the economy of a country, to the farmers, to the artisans, and generally, to boost employment, to boost exports and agricultural produce. So I would like to ask the participants now if they could give me some examples of geographical indications. Just before that, I would like to tell you that there are three main categories of geographical indication, as I just now mentioned. So first one is agricultural products, agricultural goods. Would anybody like to share any examples that is coming into their mind? I just now shared with you few examples while discussing about what GIs are and how and their relevance and importance to the country. So you could use those examples, or if there is anything else that is coming into your mind for agricultural products which are protected under the geographical indications or which can be protected under the GI Act. Saffron, Neha is saying. Saffron rice, are you talking about? Kashmiri saffron, yeah, very good. Neha, so Kashmiri saffron has been recently recognized as a geographical indication. It has been given protection. Basmati rice, Kashmiri apple, yeah, by Chirag. Thank you. Aditya says basmati rice. Yeah, excellent. Anybody else wants to share any examples? So we'll wait for a few minutes. Or any other comments, any other comments that you want to share on geographical indications? Yeah. Kovilapatti Kadalai of Tamil Nadu. This is the example given by Neha. Yeah, so there are lots of examples on agricultural products. As I just now mentioned, Darjeeling tea, basmati rice, Alfonso mango, apples, saffron from Kashmir. So they have those unique properties which they acquire because of certain climatic conditions, the type of soil that is being used, then certain agricultural practices by the farmers in that region. Rasagulla to Odisha will actually come under it's not an agricultural product, Neha. Rasagulla to Odisha and ragi. There is ragi, not so much ragi, but Rasagulla is actually a manufactured good. So that will come under the third category, which is called manufactured. So agricultural, the first one is agricultural, the second one is handicrafts, and the third one is manufactured good, like laddus and certain toys will come under the third category, manufactured goods, and as well as the rasagullas, because these are made. They're made in a certain manner. There's a recipe. There's some traditional knowledge as well. But it's not an agricultural product. So the agricultural goods, coming back to it, they acquire aroma and the taste and the unique color and properties because of the certain climatic conditions. So for example, if I want to grow mangoes in my backyard, I will never get Alfonso mango in my backyard because I don't live in that region. If I want to grow basmati rice, or if I want to grow Darjeeling tea in my backyard, it's not going to be possible because I cannot provide my plants that particular soil, the climatic conditions, as well as the practices which are being followed by the people who are native to that region. So that's the uniqueness about these products. And then handicrafts, would anyone like to share any examples on handicrafts? So I would, Mysore silk is one of the examples, which is woven in a certain manner. There's a silk thread which is used, which is unique to that particular region. They have acquired, the artisans have acquired that knowledge from generations. Their generations have been weaving that particular silk thread in a particular manner. Banarasi silk has been given protection. They have certain motifs which are unique to that region. They've acquired that knowledge, and only that particular weave, those particular people living in that region have that knowledge, and they can only produce that kind of material, that kind of a product. So that is why it has been given recognition as a geographical indication. Then manufactured goods, I have already covered. Certain goods like Agra ka petha, Bikaner ki bhujia, those kind of products, laddu, Tirupati ka laddu, they have been given GI products, GI tags by the government, the endorsement. So like if you see this shawl, it's a pashmina shawl. So this has been given GI tag by the government. Now pashmina shawl has this unique wool which comes from a particular sheep which lives in the higher altitudes of Himalayas. So there is India, and then the acquired region of India in Pakistan, acquired region of Kashmir which is in Pakistan, as well as Nepal. They share that particular region at the higher altitudes of Himalayas, where that particular sheep is there, and the wool that comes from the sheep, the method of weaving pashmina shawl makes it a unique product coming from that geographical location. So then that is how it qualifies to be a pashmina shawl. So that is the example. Then again, I was giving you example of mango grown in other region. If I say that this is an Alfonso mango, then it will not qualify as a GI, and it will be misleading the trade and public. So that is the example of geographical indication. Now I'll come to who can apply for registration of a geographical indication. Would anybody like to answer that? So normally if I try to distinguish it, sorry, my phone is running low on the battery. So if I compare it with the trademark, the trademark can be applied by a single proprietor, but when it comes to a geographical indication, it has to be applied by a whole group of people, by a community, by an association, or by a society of people who are all the interested parties to that particular GI tag, because it is not fair to give the GI tag only to a certain people and deprive others from using it. So for example, if basmati rice tag, the GI tag is shared by Punjab, Haryana, the belt which is lying on the Ganges, on the plains of the Ganges, all those, but that particular region actually can grow basmati rice with which will result in the particular aroma or the taste or the color or the characteristics. So it is not possible to give those rights only to one proprietor, but to a group or association of people who are able to grow that particular crop, who live in that region. So all of them become the member of that association or the society, and that particular society or the association can then apply for the geographical indication registration, and that GI tag can be used by each of the member of that association. So I hope I'm clear on that, but if you have any questions, I will take it up in the end. And then what is the process by which a GI registration can be obtained? It is similar to trademark registration. The registry is based in Chennai. However, the board sits on all the trademark offices in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, as well as Ahmedabad, and Kolkata as well. So the documents required for registration are an affidavit. There is a statement of case to be provided by the association, which is a very detailed statement, which indicates, which basically covers that how that particular product, if it is an agricultural product, for example, how why it should be given a GI tag. What are the characteristics unique to that particular product? What are the steps taken by the farmers to get that particular product, the characters of those products? So all those things have to be explained in details. There is a geographical map to be given of the territory where that particular product can be grown, so statement of case, geographical map, and an affidavit, all of these documents have to be provided. Then there is it is examined, and a bench sits which has more than 10 to 12 members. The Controller General themselves sits and at the time of hearing, and gives an opportunity to the applicants to explain their case in detail and to explain how that particular product is actually unique and why it should be given a GI tag. Because GI tag is not limited, as I said, the rights are not limited to one person but to a whole society or a group or a community of people. So if it is granted in haste and not to the right people, then it can have disastrous consequences for the entire country, because we can't deprive certain people who actually deserve to have those rights and give it to others. The GI is valid for 10 years once registered, like other IPRs, and it can be renewed. The registration can be renewed. So that is about the registration process of geographical indications. Then there are certain foreign GIs as well which are registered in India, which is a good thing, because if India is granting GIs to other foreign indications, then those foreign countries will also be will extend reciprocity and will be will actually accept our applications and give them the desired the attention and the recognition that it deserves. So there are certain foreign associations which are very kind of particular about protection of their GIs in India, because India is an important country for them. They export goods. For example, Scotch Whisky Association has got a GI tag for the Scotch whisky that is produced in Scotland. Napa Valley has a wine registered in India. Cognac from France, it has a GI tag. Champagne, you must be familiar with the champagne, so that has got a GI tag in India as well. So these are some of the examples of the foreign GIs which are registered in India. Then there is the DP, the Department of Industry has come up with to promote GIs in India. They have come up with new guidelines in 2018 which will help protect GIs even further. So those are like, they have come up with a logo. Normally the GI owners can use their own logo. For example, Darjeeling Tea has their special logo which they use if they are using if they have a GI tag. But in addition to that, the government has come up with this logo. I'll just show you. I hope everyone can see it. So this is the logo which once a GI is registered, each of the members along with their own GI logo, they can use this logo as well, which says Invaluable Treasures of Incredible India. So this is a nice way to promote goods of companies from each other, from the association. Now the next thing is that how once the trademark is registered, the GI is registered, how it can be useful from the point of view of enforcing the rights. Just before I cover that, I would like to also share with you that there is a frequently asked question from people that how is a GI different from a certification mark. So before the GI Act came into force in 1999, before that, anybody, like for example Darjeeling Tea was very active even in those days. If they wanted to acquire a certain kind of validation on their tea, there was a certification mark which was possible to be registered. So for example, ISI, you may have heard, it is basically, those certification marks are like a seal of validity or assurance of the fact that the manufacturer has tested the product and it meets the quality standard that so the customers know that when the ISI mark is endorsed on a particular product, then they know that okay, this is a quality product. It is endorsed by the government or by the certifying authority, which is ISI. So that is a certification mark. But GI, as I said, denotes the geographical location of the mark of the product. So that is the key difference. So as I was explaining that once the GI protection is granted to a particular product or a good, the services cannot be protected under the geographical indication. So once this registration is granted, how can a registered proprietor enforce their rights, and what are the circumstances where the rights would be violated? So most importantly, as per the GI Act, the unauthorized use of suggesting that such goods originate in a geographical area other than the true place of origin, that can mislead the customer on the geographical location origin of the particular product, is an offense, is an infringement basically under the Geographical Indication Act. So for example, if I say that this mango is an Alfonso mango, whereas it is not an Alfonso mango, it doesn't have the characteristics of an Alfonso mango, it doesn't come from that particular location, then this is going to mislead the trade and public, and this will be a violation of the GI Act, of their rights. And then again, use of GI resulting into passing off or unfair competition. Again, if someone is trying to pass off their goods as coming from that particular origin, I think for example, basmati rice, if it is not coming from that particular region where it should be grown, only to get those particular characteristics, then it is kind of passing off the goods and amounts to unfair trade practices under the Geographical Indications Act, and can be acted upon in the court of law. Which will not be less than 6 months, but it can extend to 3 years, and fine which will not be less than 50,000 rupees, but it can extend to 2 lakh rupees as well. So that's the main remedy available under the GI Act for basically infringement of GIs. Now, there are not that many cases. I would have loved to share some case studies with you on geographical indications, but there are only few cases so far which have actually happened in India, which I would just quickly share with you before we get to the question and answers. As I was talking about, Tea Board of India is quite active in protecting its registered rights in India as well as overseas. In India, Tea Board had filed an action against ITC Limited. You may be aware of the ITC company, which has a chain of hotels across the country. So ITC was actually using the name Darjeeling Lounge for its refreshment lounges in the hotels in Calcutta, and where it was serving normal food and beverages. So Tea Board filed an action against them, saying that they should not be using the word Darjeeling because it falsely suggests that the goods and services are coming from Darjeeling, and the plaintiff operates from that region. Sorry, my phone battery is a little low. So I was telling you about the Tea Board of India action filed against ITC about using the word Darjeeling Lounge for in their hotel. Then the court actually, Tea Board of India had a certification mark as well as a GI. So they relied upon the certification mark in this case. However, the court was not convinced that in this case, number one, they're not selling any product under the name Darjeeling. Number two, they were not, saying that their products are coming from Darjeeling by using the word Darjeeling Lounge. The customers are not going to get, misled basically, which is an important criteria laid out in the GI Act. So in the, as far as the certification mark was concerned, they said that there are limited rights under the certification mark and they do not extend to services. And similarly, GI, they also relied on their GI registration, that the limitation period prescribed under the GI Act is 5 years, and the case filed by them was time barred as per the section 26(4) of the GI Act. So, this case T-Board lost in India. However, they have filed a number of other cases outside of India, and they have been successful in enforcing their rights under the GI Act. Similarly, Scotch Whisky Association, which I was giving an example that they have obtained registration of a GI in India. They have again, they have filed a number of cases in India even before they obtained a GI tag, GI registration, on the basis of certification mark, on the basis of trademarks. But they are very particular about enforcing their rights, again, because India is a very important market for them. India is the number 10th country where the Scotch whisky is exported, and they make a lot of money from there. So there was one case which was filed by Scotch Whisky in 2006 against Golden Bottling Limited. The trademark that they objected to was Red Squat, and this case was not filed on the basis of their GI registration, but more on the trademark, on the trademark that was being used by Golden Bottling, which was Red Scott. So the assertions that Scotch Whisky Association gave was that the word Scot or Scotch is a geographical indication, and it is going to mislead the trade and public, who will believe that the whisky Red Scott is actually coming from Scotland, which is not true. And this will have an impact on the reputation of Scotch whisky, which will get diluted. So trade and public will assume that will not have trust on the quality of their goods if trademarks like Red Scott will be granted protection. So the court actually gave recognition and protected the rights of Scotch Whisky Association, and they injuncted the Golden Bottling Company from using the trademark Red Scott. Similarly, there was another case filed by Scotch Whisky Association against Cody Distilleries, which is a very popular case, a landmark judgment. Again, went up to the Supreme Court, from where Scotch Whisky managed to get the relief. Then again, the main assertion was that if I can't remember the trademark which was being used by Cody Distilleries, but again it had the word Scot. So the assertion given by the Scotch Whisky was that if the term Scot is likely to mislead the trade and public into believing that the whisky being manufactured by Cody Distillery is actually coming from Scotland, which is not true, and it will also pass off the goods as being coming from Scotland. So the Supreme Court gave relief to the Scotch Whisky Association as well. Again, Basmati has always, you may have read in the newspaper, there have been disputes surrounding rights over Basmati as well. Many years back, even before the GI Act came into force, there was a US company which obtained patents on Texmati rice. So they said that, so India objected very strongly to, that. So they said Texmati rice is a type of Basmati rice grown in the US, having similar aroma or similar characteristics that of Basmati rice. So Basmati rice grown in US. However, they are still using Texmati mark. The patent had a limited shelf life, so I'm not sure if the patent is still there, but they managed to use it because as per the TRIPS, if the use of a particular geographical indication is not misleading. So if somebody is saying that Darjeeling tea manufactured in Japan, the trade and public would obviously know that it is not coming from Darjeeling. So that kind of use which qualifies the location is okay to use. So on that basis, the US is still using. Then Basmati is also involved into certain other conflicts. like you may have recently heard about Madhya Pradesh government wanting to join the association of basmati manufacturers and share the GI tag. However, the Punjab government is strongly opposing that, because they feel that the rice which is grown in Madhya Pradesh cannot have the same characteristics or the qualities or the aroma, the size of rice which is grown in the belt, which is the plains and the belt, Indo-Gangetic belt. So MP should not be given the GI tag, which will dilute the significance of basmati rice. So that is one of the examples, and there are disputes over pashmina as well, because as I just now discussed that the borders, the sheep comes from the high altitudes of Himalayas, which are shared by Nepal, Pakistan, and India. So all three countries have a right over the pashmina wool, and it is not fair to give rights only to one country. So what happens is that if a pashmina is exported outside of the country, then it says pashmina manufactured in India or Pakistan or Nepal, and then that gives an idea to the consumer on the characteristics and quality of the product. So that is all from me today on geographical indications, and if you have any questions, please do let me know. I'm sorry for the hiccups due to low battery in my phone, but happy to take any questions now. So how can a GI help a small manufacturer? As I spoke about in the introductory paragraphs of my talk, that small manufacturers, for example, if somebody is manufacturing a particular good or a product that we in down south, and we in the north are not aware of that. We are not aware of how much traditional knowledge they are using, what is the unique property of that particular product. If when it gets a GI recognition, it immediately makes us aware on what is the kind of labor that has gone into, what is the kind of uniqueness which is associated with that particular product, and then the consumer is willing to pay a fair price for that product. Otherwise, there are so many similar looking products in the market that the consumer gets confused. So as I said, the GI helps generate employment. It helps given recognition to the small farmers, because then they can act, they can get a better price, better recognition when they are acting in an association and with the protection that it is given. And it helps them boost the exports as well, because other countries then recognize those rights as well. So there's a question from Aditya. Ma'am, if one particular agricultural technique or equipment is used for growing some particular agricultural product in one region, can both GI for product and patent for technique equipment be granted? So GI and patents are two different rights, and they will be examined in different manner. So I think there are two questions in your question. One is that if a particular trade practice is used by two farmers in this different region, then can both be given protection? So when it comes to GI, it is given to a particular location for a product which is grown in a particular location, and because of which it has this unique properties, whereas patent is granted on an invention, so that is more man-made. What Neha has this question: what is the scope for more conditions to get a GI? Sorry Neha, I couldn't understand your question. If you could clarify. For more conditions, what do you mean by that? Anyone else has any other questions? I'm still looking at the chat. If there's nothing else, then I would like to say thank you for paying attention to the session and having interest in geographical indications. And I would request you to share your knowledge with your peers, with your colleagues and your friends, so that we can make more and more people aware of the significance of geographical indications. So Neha is asking what conditions might need to be satisfied in the near future. So as I just now mentioned, that there is a statement of case that has to be filed, an affidavit to be filed, to basically establish your rights, establish the rights of the association, that how they have their products are different from others, and what is the uniqueness associated with those products, and the characteristics which are due to the geographical location where that particular product is produced. So that is the important criteria. If there is nothing to do with the geographical location from where the product is coming, then it will get protected under other IPR rights, which I spoke about in the introductory part of my talk. So for a GI, it is very important to have a geography or a location to be mentioned, that why it is so unique because of that location. Okay, thank you very much for listening to my talk. All the best. Cheers.